What determines the passing of time? How do we know a week from a month? Humans have created terminology to describe periods in our life. Time is really just based on the rotation of the Earth around the Sun. Other concepts like weekends, holidays, were fabricated to bring structure to our lives. In the past, civilizations would base their calendars on other happenings. An example of this is the Aztec calendar, which was largely organized by religious events. Ceremonies, celebrations, and sacrifices all played a part in the structure of their calendar. A representation of this calendar is depicted on the Aztec calendar stone, which was discovered in 1790 in Mexico City when repairs were being made on the National Palace. It was carved in the early 1500s and dedicated to the Emperor Moctezuma II. It is one of the greatest post-classic visual art pieces that depicts the cosmological beliefs from the time period. By examining this artifact, we can understand more about the beliefs and practices of the Aztec society and what eventually led to their downfall. The calendar stone has a 12-foot diameter and weighs about 25 tons. It is a large circular slab of basalt, a solidified lava, carved with intricate designs. The top of the stone shows the date glyph of 13 Reed, or the year 1479. This year marks the birth of the present sun, which is the fifth and final one according to mythology. The designs on the stone are particularly interesting. The face in the center of the stone has been debated between various historians. Many believe that it is Huitzilopochtli, I hope I'm saying that right, the sun god, and some theorize that it is the earth god, Tlactecutli. Surrounding the center is 4 square panels with different deities that represent 4 previous ages of the world. There are claws on the left and right of the center face that were likely used to hold human hearts. The design on the stone created the hieroglyph Nahi Olin, which means 4 motion or 4 earthquake. This is another representation of the 5th sun. It is known as the 4 earthquake because it was thought an earthquake would be part of the destruction of civilization. The Aztecs didn't know the exact date that the destruction would take place, therefore they were living in constant fear. There are 2 bands on the stone, one representing the 260-day ceremonial year, and the other representing the 365-day solar year. The use of the stone has been debated between historians. Leon E. Gama assumed the stone might have been used as a sort of sundial to keep track of time. It showed the equinoxes, solstices, and zenith passages through the shadows cast onto the stone. However, archaeologist Alfredo Chavero proposed that it was used as a sacrificial altar called a kuaxakali, meaning it was used to store human hearts or blood. Likely, the god depicted in the center of the calendar stone, Huitzilopochtli, the god of the 5th sun and of war, was of utmost importance in Aztec culture. His name roughly translates to hummingbird. The Aztecs believed that dead warriors were reincarnated as hummingbirds. Therefore, they believed that the sun god was a resurrected warrior sent to guide them. And when his festival was celebrated, captives were slain, washed slaves were slain. This is a quote from an Aztec hymn. The 5th month on the Aztec ceremonial calendar was dedicated to the sun god. During this time, warriors and courtesans danced through many nights in front of the sun god's temple. War prisoners and slaves were bathed in a sacred spring in a small city outside the Aztec capital before being sacrificed. As well, a large bark paper serpent would be burned, symbolizing the sun god's primary weapon of a burning snake. To conclude the ceremony, a statue of the sun god, made of corn, would be shot with an arrow to represent his death. Priests and novices would eat the corn and then be obliged to serve the god for the next year. This specific calendar stone was marking an important year for the Aztecs, the 5th year, meaning the 5th rebirth of the sun and of the sun god. They believed that before their time, there were 4 other creations and destructions of life on Earth. This stems from Aztec mythology. 4 previous gods made themselves the sun, only to be killed by their successor. Something that may have contributed to the belief of destruction is the dangerous circumstances of where they lived, in the Valley of Mexico. The valley was surrounded by mountains, thereby making it susceptible to various natural disasters. The Aztec calendar stone helps us see how difficult life must have been during their time period. The looming Day of Destruction, combined with frequent violent sacrifices, made life as an Aztec one of many struggles. During the age of the fifth sun, the Aztecs were also faced with another threat: invading civilizations. In 1521, the capital city of Tenochtitlan was overthrown by the Spanish army. Shortly after their defeat, a disease called Kokolitzli spread through their city, quickly wiping them out. It's extremely interesting to see how an artifact such as the calendar stone provided us with such tremendous amount of information that we wouldn't have had otherwise.